The exact moment Elena Morrison decided to save a dying man's life, she had exactly $43 in her bank account and a notice threatening eviction taped to her apartment door. The October wind bit through her thin cardigan as she walked along the Hudson River pathway, watching Lucas skip ahead, his sneakers, 2 sizes too big, bought from the thrift store, slapping against the wet pavement. Her son was 8 years old and still believed the world was good. Elena wanted to keep it that way for as long as possible, even though her own faith had drowned 3 years ago along with her husband. "Mom, look, the leaves are turning red," Lucas called out, pointing at the maple trees lining the riverbank. "Beautiful, sweetheart. Stay where I can see you." It was Thursday evening, their ritual walk before dinner, before she'd have to figure out how to stretch a box of pasta and half a jar of sauce into 2 meals, before she'd have to grade papers under the flickering kitchen light because the lamp in her bedroom had finally given up, before she'd have to pretend that everything was fine. The teaching salary at Riverside Elementary barely covered rent, and after her husband David's death, the medical bills had consumed everything else. His parents blamed her for not saving him, for being the one who survived the car accident that took their son. They'd cut off all contact, including financial help. Elena had learned to survive on pride and determination alone. "Mom!" Lucas's voice cut through her thoughts, sharper now, urgent. She looked up to see him pointing at the road above them, where a black SUV was swerving violently across the lanes. The sound of gunfire cracked through the air, sharp, unmistakable. Elena's heart seized. She'd heard that sound only once before, in the city, and had never forgotten it. "Lucas, get down." But her son wasn't listening. He was staring, transfixed, as the SUV smashed through the metal guardrail like it was paper, flew through the air in a horrible arc of twisted metal and shattered glass, and plunged into the dark water of the Hudson with a thunderous crash. For a moment, everything was silent except for the wind and the lapping of waves against the shore. Then Lucas was running. "Lucas, no, stop." But her son was already at the water's edge, already pulling off his jacket. Elena's blood turned to ice. Not again. She couldn't lose someone else to water, to fate, to the cruel randomness of the universe. She reached him just as he jumped in. "Lucas!" There was no choice now. There had never been a choice. Elena kicked off her shoes and dove into the October River, the cold hitting her like a physical blow, stealing the breath from her lungs. The water was dark and murky, contaminated with city runoff and autumn debris. She could barely see 2 feet in front of her. She surfaced, gasping. "Lucas! Here!" His small voice came from near the sinking vehicle. How had he gotten there so fast? Elena swam with strokes powered by pure terror, reaching the SUV just as Lucas was trying to pull open the back door. The vehicle was taking on water fast, already half submerged. Through the shattered window, she could see a man in the driver's seat, slumped forward, clearly dead. But in the back, another man was moving, weakly trying to push against the door. "Help me, Mom!" Together, they pulled. The door was jammed, warped from the impact. The man inside was large, broad-shouldered, dressed in an expensive suit now soaked with water and blood. So much blood. It bloomed dark in the water around them. "We can't leave him!" Lucas insisted, his young voice fierce with conviction. The SUV lurched, sinking faster. In seconds, it would go under completely. Elena made a decision that would change everything. She smashed her elbow against the remaining glass of the window, ignoring the pain as shards cut her skin. The man inside was barely conscious, but his eyes opened, pale gray, like storm clouds, like steel, and locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch even in that moment of chaos. "Can you move?" she shouted. He didn't answer, but he shifted, and that was enough. Elena reached through, grabbed his arm, solid muscle under the expensive fabric, and pulled. Lucas pushed from his side. The man was heavy, dead weight, but desperation gave them strength they didn't have. With a final surge of effort, they dragged him through the window just as the SUV gave a groaning lurch and began its final descent into the depths. Elena wrapped her arm around the man's chest, feeling the sticky warmth of blood even in the cold water, and kicked towards shore. Lucas swam beside her, his small face determined. It took forever. The shore seemed miles away. The man's weight kept dragging her down, and twice she went under, swallowing mouthfuls of foul river water. But Lucas was there, his small hands gripping the man's jacket, helping to keep him afloat. Finally, miraculously, Elena's feet touched mud. She dragged the man onto the rocky shore and collapsed beside him, coughing, shaking violently from cold and shock and adrenaline. Lucas crawled over to the man, pressing his small hand against the stranger's neck. "He has a pulse! Mom, he's alive!" Elena forced herself to focus. The man was unconscious, his face pale beneath olive skin, dark hair plastered to his forehead. He was handsome in a harsh way. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, a thin scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He looked like he was in his mid-30s, and everything about him, from his tailored suit to his expensive watch, screamed money. And danger. Because Elena wasn't naive. She'd seen the bullet holes in the SUV. She'd heard the gunshots. This man wasn't the victim of a random accident. He was involved in something dark, something violent. "We need to call 911, she said, reaching for the phone in her pocket, but it was soaked through, dead. "Mom, look." Lucas pointed up at the road, where two black cars had pulled up near the broken guardrail. Men were getting out, looking down at the water, looking for someone, looking for him. Every instinct screamed at Elena to leave, to take Lucas and run. But the man was bleeding out on the rocks, and those men up there didn't look like they were coming to help. They looked like they were coming to finish the job. "We have to move him," Elena heard herself say. "Where?" "Home. We take him home." It was insane. It was dangerous. It went against every rule of common sense and self-preservation. But Elena had learned 3 years ago that life could end in an instant, that good people could die while bad people thrived, and that sometimes you had to make impossible choices. Her old Honda was parked in the lot 50 yards away. Together, with strength born of necessity, Elena and Lucas half-carried, half-dragged the unconscious man across the park. He outweighed them both combined, but adrenaline made miracles possible. They managed to get him into the back seat, leaving a trail of water and blood. Elena's hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. Lucas climbed in front, his small body shivering in his wet clothes. "Buckle up, baby." She drove the speed limit, forcing herself to breathe, to not panic, to not think about what she was doing. The man in the back seat groaned once but didn't wake. Their apartment building was a run-down 3-story walk-up in the poorest part of town. The elevator had been broken for 6 months. They'd have to carry him up 2 flights of stairs without anyone seeing. "It's almost 6:30, Lucas said quietly. "Mrs. Chen watches her game shows now. Mr. Rodriguez is at work. 3rd floor is empty." Her brilliant, observant boy. They waited until the lobby was clear, then dragged the stranger inside and up the stairs, leaving wet footprints on the worn carpet. Elena's arms screamed in protest. Her lungs burned. But they made it to apartment 2C, got him inside, and locked the door behind them. The man collapsed onto their threadbare couch, blood immediately soaking into the faded fabric. Under the harsh light of the living room, Elena could see the wound clearly. A bullet hole in his left shoulder, another graze along his ribs. "Get the first aid kit," she told Lucas. "And towels. All of them." Her hands moved on autopilot, drawing on half-remembered CPR training from years ago. She cut away his suit jacket. The fabric was probably worth more than her monthly salary, and pressed towels against the wounds to stop the bleeding. The bullet in his shoulder would have to stay there. She couldn't remove it without proper tools, without risking killing him. But she could clean the wounds, could bandage them, could hope that infection didn't set in. As she worked, she noticed other scars. Old bullet wounds. Knife marks. This was a man intimately familiar with violence. "Who is he, Mom?" Lucas whispered. "I don't know, baby." But she was starting to suspect. The expensive suit, the gunshot wounds, the men hunting him. It all added up to one conclusion. She'd just saved the life of a criminal, maybe even a killer. The man's eyes suddenly snapped open, and Elena jerked back. Those pale gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. His hand shot out, faster than should be possible for someone who'd nearly died, and gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "Who are you?" His voice was rough, accented, Italian, maybe. "Where am I?" "You're safe," Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You were in an accident. We pulled you from the river." His eyes moved to Lucas, then back to her, calculating, assessing. "The men in the car?" "There was only one other man. He didn't make it." Something flickered across his face. Grief, anger, guilt, all compressed into a single moment. Then it was gone, replaced by cold control. "You should have left me." "We don't leave people to die," Lucas said firmly, his chin jutting out in defiance. The man stared at her son for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, his grip on Elena's wrist loosened, and something almost like a smile ghosted across his pale lips. "Brave kid." "Stupid kid, more like," Elena muttered, starting to shake now that the adrenaline was fading. "We need to call someone, an ambulance or—" "No." The word was steel. "No hospitals, no police. You've been shot. I need to disappear." He tried to sit up, groaned, and collapsed back. They'll be looking for a body. When they don't find one, they'll come looking for a live man, Elena finished. Smart. He closed his eyes, breathing hard. You shouldn't have saved me, teacher. How did you know? The posters on your wall. Elementary reading charts. He opened one eye to look at her. You have about 12 hours before my enemies figure out I'm alive and start searching every hospital, every clinic, every house within 10 miles of that river. If I'm here, you're dead. Both of you. Elena's blood ran cold. Then you need to leave. Can't. I'll bleed out before I make it to the street. He closed his eye again. I need a phone. Need to contact my people. They'll extract me, clean up the mess. Your people. Elena repeated flatly. You mean your Mafia family? Both eyes opened now, sharp and assessing. You're smarter than you look. I'm smart enough to know I just made the worst mistake of my life. Probably. He studied her face. But you did it anyway. Why? Elena didn't have an answer. Or rather, she had too many answers, none of them rational. Because her son was watching. Because she was tired of standing by while the world fell apart. Because 3 years ago, no one had been there to save David, and maybe if they had been, everything would be different. Because it was the right thing to do, she said finally. The man laughed, a harsh sound that turned into a cough. Lady, there's no such thing as the right thing. There's only survival and death. You just chose wrong. We'll see about that, Elena said, more bravely than she felt. She had $43, a bleeding Mafia boss on her couch, and approximately 12 hours before both their worlds came crashing down. But she'd survived worse. She'd survived this too. She had to. Elena's phone was ruined, but Lucas's tablet still worked. The stranger, though she was beginning to think of him as something more concrete, more dangerous, recited a number from memory. His voice steady despite the pain that had to be tearing through him. Tell whoever answers that the wolf is den-bound. Give them this address. They'll understand. The call lasted 15 seconds. The voice on the other end was male, calm, and asked no questions. Just confirmed the address and disconnected. They'll be here in 40 minutes, the man said, leaning back against the couch cushions. His face was gray with blood loss, but his eyes remained alert, watchful. You should take your son and leave. Go to a hotel, somewhere public. Stay there until tomorrow afternoon. This is my home, Elena said quietly. Not anymore. The moment you pulled me from that river, it became a crime scene. Lucas was sitting cross-legged on the floor, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stranger with unabashed curiosity. What's your name? Lucas, Elena warned. It's fine. The man looked at her son with something that might have been respect. Dante. Dante Salvatore. The name meant nothing to Elena, but the way he said it suggested it should. Like introducing himself as Rockefeller or Kennedy. A name that carried weight, history, and blood. I'm Lucas Morrison. That's my mom, Elena. She teaches 2nd grade at Riverside Elementary. We live here alone because my dad died 3 years ago in a car accident. Mom says he's in heaven, but I think he's probably just gone because heaven sounds made up. Lucas! Elena's face flushed. But Dante was smiling. Actually smiling, though it looked unpracticed on his harsh features. Smart kid. I agree with you. Heaven is a story people tell themselves to feel better about dying. That's a terrible thing to say to a child, Elena snapped. It's a true thing. The world is terrible. Better he learns it now than later when it'll kill him. He's 8 years old. I was 8 when I learned what real violence looks like. Dante's eyes went distant. When I watched my father put a bullet in a man's head in our kitchen while my mother made pasta 3 feet away. Age doesn't protect you from reality. It just makes you less prepared when reality comes knocking. The casual way he spoke about murder made Elena's skin crawl. This was a man who lived in a completely different world, operated by completely different rules. And she'd brought him into her home, into her son's life. I think you should rest, she said, standing up. Stop talking. You're losing blood. Already lost too much. Surprised I'm still conscious. He watched her move around the small living room, tidying up bloody towels with shaking hands. You're terrified, but you're not running. Why? Where would I run to? You said yourself they'll be looking. They will. My enemies. And once my people arrive, they'll want to know everything about you. Names, backgrounds, vulnerabilities. His voice was matter of fact. You understand what you've become. Witnesses. Loose ends. Elena's hand stilled. Are you threatening us? I'm warning you. There's a difference. Dante shifted, wincing. My people will want to eliminate risk. That means eliminating you. Then why did you call them? Because I'm bleeding out on your cheap couch. and I'd rather not die in front of your kid. He met her eyes. But I can tell them to leave you alone. Can make it clear you're under my protection. If I do that, they won't touch you. No one would dare. And what does that cost me? Smart question. Everything costs something in my world. Dante was quiet for a moment, studying her. It costs you your silence. Complete silence. You saw nothing tonight. You saved no one. This never happened. Can you do that? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Can he? Dante nodded toward Lucas. Elena looked at her son, who was watching them with those two old eyes. Eyes that had seen his father die. Eyes that had learned too young that the world was fragile and cruel. Lucas understands about keeping secrets. Don't you, sweetheart? I won't tell anyone, Lucas said solemnly. I promise on Dad's grave. Something crossed Dante's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Your father was a good man? The best, Lucas said fiercely. Then he was a fool. Good men don't survive. They die, and they leave their families unprotected. Dante's voice was harsh. You want to honor him? Don't be like him. Be smart. Be hard. Be the kind of man who survives. That's enough, Elena said sharply. You don't get to lecture my son about his father. You don't know anything about us. I know you're broke. I can see it in the eviction notice on your kitchen counter, the thrift store clothes, the way you both look hungry even when you're not. I know you're alone. No family photos except you and the boy. No support system. No safety net. Dante's eyes were merciless. I know you saved me not because you're good, but because you needed to prove to yourself that you're still capable of saving someone. Because you couldn't save your husband, and it's eating you alive. The words hit like physical blows. Elena felt her eyes sting with tears she refused to shed. You don't know anything. I know desperation when I see it. I know what it looks like when someone's drowning even on dry land. Dante's voice softened slightly. You saved my life. That means something. In my world, that means debt, and I pay my debts. I don't want anything from you. Everyone wants something. Money, usually. Security. Protection. He watched her carefully. I can provide all of that. One phone call, and your problems disappear. The eviction notice, the medical debt, the constant fear of not having enough. I can make it all go away. It was tempting. God, it was so tempting. Elena was so tired of struggling, of watching Lucas wear shoes that didn't fit and pretending it didn't break her heart. But she knew what taking that money would mean, knew what it would cost beyond dollars and cents. Blood money, she said quietly. That's what you're offering. Money earned from drugs, prostitution, extortion, murder. Money earned from providing services people want, filling needs the government pretends don't exist. Dante shrugged, then grimaced at the pain. But yes, if it makes you feel morally superior, call it blood money. It spends the same as any other kind. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. Dante studied her for a long moment, and Elena had the unsettling feeling he was seeing straight through her, reading every weakness, every fear. Every desperate hope she kept buried. You're lying, he said finally. Not to me. To yourself. You want to take the money. You're just scared of what it makes you. Before Elena could respond, there was a soft knock at the door. 3 rapid taps, a pause, then 2 more. Some kind of code. Dante's entire demeanor changed. The wounded man disappeared, replaced by something harder, more dangerous. That's them. Let them in. Stand back. Don't speak unless spoken to. Elena's hands trembled as she unlocked the door. 3 men entered, moving with the fluid efficiency of soldiers or predators. They barely glanced at her or Lucas, their focus entirely on Dante. Boss? The first man, tall, dark-haired, with a jagged scar across his neck, knelt beside the couch. Christ, you look like hell. Feels worse. Marco, meet Elena Morrison and her son Lucas. They pulled me from the river. They're under my protection. Spread the word. Marco's eyes flicked to Elena, assessing her in a single glance. She felt measured, categorized, and dismissed as non-threatening all in the span of a heartbeat. Understood. We've brought a medic. Tony, get in here. The second man, older with gray at his temples, carried a large duffel bag. He immediately began examining Dante's wounds with professional efficiency, pulling out medical supplies that looked far too sophisticated for someone who wasn't a real doctor. The third man stood by the door, hand inside his jacket, watching the hallway. Security. Bullet's still in there, Tony muttered. Gonna have to dig it out. Do it. Dante's eyes found Elena. Take your son to his bedroom. Close the door. Don't come out until we leave. This is my home. Now. Please. The please was an afterthought, but it was there. Elena grabbed Lucas's hand and pulled him toward the bedroom. As the door closed, she heard Dante grunt in pain, heard the sound of metal instruments clinking, and tried not to imagine what was happening in her living room. Lucas climbed onto his bed, still wrapped in his blanket. Is he going to die? I don't know, baby. I don't think so. He seems too mean to die. Elena almost laughed. Sometimes mean people are the hardest to kill. They sat in silence for a while, listening to muffled voices and movements from the other room. Elena's mind was racing. What had she done? What had she brought into their lives? But underneath the fear, there was something else. A strange feeling she couldn't quite name, like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing you should step back but unable to stop looking down into the depths. 45 minutes later, there was a soft knock on the bedroom door. It's Marco. Boss wants to talk to you. Elena left Lucas on the bed and stepped back into the living room. The transformation was shocking. The bloody towels were gone. The couch cushions had been flipped. The floor was spotless. It was as if nothing had happened. Dante was sitting up now, his shoulder properly bandaged, wearing a clean black shirt someone must have brought. He still looked pale, but his eyes were sharp and clear. We're leaving, he said without preamble. You'll never see me again, but I keep my word. Your debts are paid as of tonight. The eviction notice is meaningless. You'll receive confirmation tomorrow from your landlord and the hospital billing department. I told you I don't want your money. Too bad. It's not about what you want. It's about honor. You saved my life. I'm paying the debt. Refusing would be an insult. Dante stood slowly, steadying himself against Marco's arm. One more thing. You have my private number now. If you're ever in trouble, any kind of trouble, you call me. Immediately. That's not a request. I won't need to call you. Probably not. But if you do, I'll answer. No matter what. He moved toward the door, then paused. Your husband. The car accident. It wasn't an accident, was it? Elena's blood turned to ice. What? I can see it in the way you flinch when you mention it. The way your son looks angry instead of sad. Someone killed him. And you know it, but you can't prove it, and the police won't listen. How could you possibly? Because I recognize the look of someone living with unpunished injustice. It's the same look I see in the mirror. Dante's eyes were cold, but there was understanding in them too. You want to know who did it? I can find out. I can make them pay. All you have to do is ask. It was tempting. God, it was so tempting. Elena had spent 3 years wondering, suspecting, imagining revenge. David's accident had been too convenient. The other driver had fled the scene and was never found. The police investigation had gone nowhere. But she had no proof, just a widow's intuition that something was wrong. No, she whispered. I don't want that. I don't want more death. Then you're a better person than I am. But the offer stands. Forever. Dante nodded to his men. Let's go. They filed out silently, leaving Elena standing alone in her clean living room, feeling like she'd just survived a hurricane. Or maybe walked into the eye of one, with the worst still to come. Lucas appeared in the doorway. Is he gone? Yes, baby. He's gone. Good. I didn't like him very much. No? I thought you said he was interesting. Interesting and nice aren't the same thing. He was scary. Lucas came over and hugged her waist. But I think he liked you. Don't be silly. He looked at you the way Dad used to look at you, like you were important. Elena's throat tightened. You're imagining things. Go brush your teeth. It's way past bedtime. But later, lying in her own bed, unable to sleep, Elena couldn't stop thinking about Dante Salvatore, about his cold eyes and unexpected smiles, about the way he'd read her so easily, seen through every defense, about the offer he'd made, justice for David, answers for the questions that haunted her. Her phone buzzed. A new number, a single text message. Your debts are cleared. Sleep well, teacher. You saved the wrong man tonight, but maybe that makes you the right kind of fool. D. Elena stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. But she didn't delete the number, just in case. 3 weeks passed before Elena saw Dante Salvatore again. True to his word, the eviction notice vanished. Her landlord called personally, stammering apologies about a computer error and assuring her that her rent was current. The hospital sent a letter stating her medical debt had been forgiven due to financial hardship review. Even the collection agency stopped calling. Elena should have felt relief. Instead, she felt chains wrapping around her, invisible but unbreakable. She owed a Mafia boss now, and men like that always collected their debts eventually. She tried to focus on normal life, teaching fractions to second graders, helping Lucas with his homework, grocery shopping without calculating every penny. But normalcy felt like a costume that no longer fit properly. Then, on a gray November morning, she walked out to her car and found Dante leaning against it. He looked different in daylight. Less like a wounded predator, and more like what he probably was. A successful businessman in an expensive charcoal suit, cashmere coat draped over his shoulders. The only hint of violence was the careful way he held himself, favoring his left side where the bullet had torn through. "You're healed," Elena said, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Mostly. Courtesy of antibiotics and spite." He studied her face. "You look tired." "I have a full-time job and an 8-year-old. Tired is my natural state." "It's more than that. You're not sleeping. Having nightmares about the river?" Elena's hands tightened on her bag. "What are you doing here?" "Checking on my investment." "I'm not your investment. You paid your debt. We're even." "We'll never be even. You gave me back my life. Money doesn't cover that." Dante pushed off from the car. "I need to talk to you, privately. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks from here. 10 minutes of your time. I have to get Lucas to school." "He's already there. I had Marco drive him this morning. Told him you had an early meeting." Elena's blood ran cold. "You had someone pick up my son? Without asking me?" "Marco's good with kids. Former Marine, spotless record, current godfather to his sister's 3 daughters. Lucas was perfectly safe." "That's not the point. You can't just... You don't have the right..." "I know." Dante's voice was quiet. "But I needed to see you alone. And this was the only way. I apologize. It won't happen again without your permission." The apology surprised her enough that her anger deflated slightly. Men like him didn't apologize. Or maybe they did, and she just didn't know any men like him. 10 minutes, she said coldly. Then you disappear from our lives. Deal. The coffee shop was small, warm, and blessedly empty at this hour. Dante ordered an espresso. Black. Elena ordered tea she wouldn't drink, just to have something to hold. They sat in the back corner, away from the windows. Dante positioned himself with his back to the wall, eyes on the door. Always alert. Always ready. "You're in danger," he said without preamble. Elena's stomach dropped. "What?" "The family that tried to kill me. The Rossi organization. They're asking questions. My people have contained most of the information, but word got out that someone pulled me from that river. They don't have names yet, but they're looking." "You said we'd be safe. You said..." "I said you were under my protection, and you are. But protection means acknowledging the threat exists." Dante leaned forward. "I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you. There are men watching your building now. My men. They'll keep you safe, but you need to be aware of your surroundings. Any strangers approaching you or Lucas, you call me immediately. This is insane. We're just regular people. We don't belong in this world. You stopped belonging to your world the moment you dove into that river." His eyes were intense. "I'm sorry. Truly. But wishing won't change reality. The question now is how we handle it." "We? There is no we. This is your problem. It became yours too. That's how this works." Dante sipped his espresso. "I can offer you protection, but there's a price. Not money. I told you I don't want your money. I want you to trust me. To follow my instructions without argument. To let me keep you alive. And if I refuse? If I just pack up Lucas and leave town? They'll find you. My enemies are thorough, and I won't be there to stop them." He set down his cup. "Stay. Let me protect you. It's temporary. Once the Rossi situation is resolved, you'll be free and clear." "How long is temporary?" "A month, maybe 2. 2 months of living under guard? Of looking over my shoulder? Of worrying that every stranger might be a killer?" Elena shook her head. "Lucas has been through enough. He doesn't need this. Lucas needs to be alive. Everything else is secondary." The blunt truth of it hit her hard. She thought about her son's bright smile, his curiosity, his fierce heart. She thought about David's funeral, lowering a casket into frozen ground while Lucas stood silent and hollow-eyed beside her. She couldn't survive losing another person she loved. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. What do I need to do?" Relief flickered across Dante's face. "First, vary your routine. Don't leave at the same time every day. Don't take the same route. Second, keep your phone charged and on you always. I've had a panic button app installed. Red icon, looks like a calculator. You open it. Help arrives in under 3 minutes. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. You've thought of everything. I've survived 36 years in a world where one mistake means death. Yes, I've thought of everything." He paused. "There's one more thing. I'd like to spend time with you and Lucas, in public. Let people see us together." "Why?" "Because in my world, perception is protection. If people believe you're mine, under my personal protection, not just my general oversight, they won't touch you. It's the difference between a guarded asset and family. We're not your family. No. But we can pretend to be. For your safety and Lucas's. Dante's expression was carefully neutral. I'm not asking for anything inappropriate. Just dinners, maybe a few public outings. Let me be seen as someone who cares about you. That's all. Elena should have said no. Should have found another way. But she was tired of fighting alone. Tired of being terrified. Tired of pretending she could handle everything by herself. Lucas will ask questions, she said finally. Tell him the truth. That I'm keeping you safe because you saved my life. Kids understand loyalty better than adults do. He'll get attached. He's been without a father figure for 3 years. He's vulnerable. Then I'll be careful with him. I don't make promises I can't keep, Elena. If I say I'll protect him, I will. With my life, if necessary. The sincerity in his voice shook her. This was a man who killed people, who ran criminal enterprises, who lived by violence. Yet she believed him. Believed he would shield Lucas from harm even at his own expense. Okay, she said again. We'll do this. But the moment the threat is gone, you walk away. No more contact. We go back to being strangers. Agreed. Something in his eyes suggested he was lying, but Elena chose to ignore it. She needed the protection more than she needed the truth. That evening, Dante picked them up for dinner at a restaurant Elena could never afford. Lucas was initially suspicious, but Dante won him over by talking about baseball statistics with the same intensity most men reserved for business deals. The Yankees haven't had a decent pitcher since Sabathia retired, Lucas argued, waving his fork. Sabathia was good, but Rivera was legendary. You want to talk about closers? Rivera's the only conversation worth having. Rivera retired before I was born. Then you missed witnessing perfection. Tragic. Dante smiled slightly. Your father teach you about baseball? Lucas's expression shuddered. Yeah, we used to watch games together. Before he died in the accident that wasn't an accident. Elena froze. Dante. It's okay, Mom. Lucas's voice was quiet but steady. He knows. And he's right. It wasn't an accident. The police said it was, but they're wrong. Dante leaned back in his chair, studying the boy. What makes you so sure? Dad was a good driver. He never drank, never texted while driving, always wore his seatbelt. The police said he swerved into oncoming traffic for no reason. But Dad wouldn't do that. Someone made him swerve. Someone ran him off the road. Lucas, we've talked about this, Elena said gently. We don't know. I know. Lucas interrupted, his young voice fierce. I know someone hurt him, and nobody cares enough to find out who. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I care. Tell me about the accident, everything you remember. For the next hour, Lucas talked. About the rainy October night 3 years ago. About how David had been coming home from a business dinner. About the witness who saw another car speeding away. About the insurance investigation that found nothing suspicious. About the company Dad had worked for, and how they'd settled his life insurance quickly. Too quickly. Elena listened to her son recite facts she'd tried to forget. Heard the pain and anger she hadn't realized he'd been carrying. When had he become so observant? When had he stopped being her baby and become this sharp-eyed boy who saw too much? Dante listened without interrupting, his face unreadable. When Lucas finished, he said, Give me 2 weeks. I'll find out what really happened that night. You can do that? Lucas's eyes were wide. I have resources the police don't, and I have motivation. I owe your mother a debt. Finding the truth about your father's death would go a long way toward repaying it. No, Elena said sharply. We're not doing this. We're not digging up the past. David is gone. Knowing why won't bring him back, but it'll give Lucas answers, closure, justice. Justice? You mean revenge? You mean violence? I mean truth. Dante's eyes were steady on hers. What you do with that truth is your choice. But don't you want to know? Don't you want to stop wondering? God help her, she did. She'd spent 3 years replaying that night, questioning every detail, imagining scenarios. The not knowing was worse than almost anything else. But inviting Dante deeper into their lives, asking him to use his dark resources on their behalf, that was crossing a line she couldn't uncross. 2 weeks, Dante said quietly. Just let me look. If I find nothing, we drop it forever. If I find something, you decide what happens next. No obligation, no pressure. Lucas was looking at her with such hope that Elena's resolve crumbled. Okay, but you're right. What happens with any information you find is my decision, not yours. Understood. They finished dinner talking about safer topics. School, books, Lucas's dream of becoming a marine biologist. Dante listened with genuine interest, asked intelligent questions, and treated Lucas like a young man rather than a child. Elena watched her son blossom under the attention, watched him laugh and argue and gesture wildly, and felt something in her chest crack open. This was dangerous. Not the Mafia threat or the Rossi family. This, the way Dante fit into their lives like a missing puzzle piece. The way Lucas looked at him with admiration bordering on hero worship. The way Elena found herself noticing details about him. The way he smiled with one side of his mouth more than the other. The scar through his eyebrow that made him look dangerous and vulnerable simultaneously. The careful intelligence behind every word he spoke. After dinner, Dante drove them home. At the door of her apartment, Lucas ran ahead, leaving them alone in the hallway. "Thank you," Elena said quietly. "For listening to him. For taking him seriously. He's a smart kid. He deserves to be heard." Dante hesitated, then added, "You're a good mother. David would be proud of what you've done with his son." The compliment shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It mattered terribly. "Good night, Dante." "Good night, Elena. Lock your door. Marco's in the building across the street if you need anything." She watched him walk away, his stride confident despite the injury he was still recovering from. Watched until he disappeared into the elevator. Then she went inside, locked the door, and leaned against it, her heart racing. Lucas appeared in his pajamas. "I like him, Mom. Is that okay?" "Yes, baby. That's okay." "Do you like him?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "I don't know what I feel." But that was a lie. She knew exactly what she felt. She was falling for a man who killed people for a living. A man who lived in darkness and violence. A man who represented everything she should run from. And the most terrifying part? She wasn't sure she wanted to run anymore. Outside her window, across the street, Marco sat in a parked car watching the building. Keeping them safe. Keeping them prisoner. The line between the two was thinner than Elena had ever imagined. Dante kept his word. 10 days after that dinner, he appeared at Elena's classroom after school, with a manila folder tucked under his arm and shadows in his eyes. She was erasing the whiteboard, preparing tomorrow's lesson on compound words, when she turned and found him standing in the doorway. He looked out of place among the colorful alphabet posters and children's artwork, like a wolf wandering into a kindergarten. "You found something," she said. It wasn't a question. "I found everything." He held up the folder. "But you need to decide if you really want to know. Once you see this, you can't unsee it." Elena's hands trembled as she set down the eraser. "Is it bad?" "It's not an accident. Beyond that, I'll let you judge for yourself." Dante crossed to her desk and set down the folder but didn't open it. "Where's Lucas?" "Art club. I have 40 minutes before I pick him up." "Good. You'll want to be sitting down for this." She sank into her desk chair. Dante pulled up one of the small student chairs, comically inadequate for his size, and sat across from her. The absurdity of the moment almost made her laugh. Almost. "Your husband, David, worked as an accountant for Meridian Shipping Company," Dante began. "Mid-level position, good salary, clean record. But 3 months before he died, he discovered something. Evidence of money laundering. Meridian was a front for the Calabrese crime family, not my organization, a different one. David found proof. Invoices, shipping manifests, offshore accounts. Everything needed to bring down the entire operation." Elena's mouth went dry. David never said anything. Because he was smart, he copied the files to a secure drive and contacted the FBI. He was going to turn witness. Testify in exchange for protection for his family. Dante's expression was grim. But someone inside the FBI leaked the information. The Calabrese family found out. They sent someone to eliminate the problem before it could testify. The other car, the one that ran him off the road. A professional. He staged it to look like a typical accident. Rainy night, poor visibility, no witnesses close enough to get a clear view. "The man who killed your husband is named Vincent Rossi. Works for the Calabrese organization. He's done 12 similar jobs over the past decade." Elena's vision blurred. Vincent Rossi. The name sounded ordinary, unremarkable. A man with that name could be a dentist or a teacher or someone's father. Not a killer. Not the person who'd destroyed her entire world. "The insurance settlement," she whispered. "They paid so quickly." "Because they wanted you to go away quietly. Take the money, move on, don't ask questions." And it worked. Until now. Dante pushed the folder toward her. "It's all in here. Photographs, financial records, witness statements I managed to obtain. Enough to reopen the investigation if you want. Enough to prove David was murdered." Elena stared at the folder like it was a snake. "What about the secure drive? The evidence David collected? Missing. presumably destroyed after his death. But I have people looking. If it still exists, we'll find it. And then what? I take this to the police? They ignored me 3 years ago. Why would they listen now? Because you have me backing you up now, and because I have connections that can make sure the right people see this evidence. People who can't be bought or intimidated. Dante paused. Or you can choose a different path. Let me handle this my way. Permanently. There it was. The offer she'd known was coming. Justice served cold and final, outside any courtroom, beyond any law. You want to kill him, Elena said flatly. Vincent Rossi. You want permission to execute him. I want to give you what the system never will. Actual consequences for the man who murdered your husband and left your son fatherless. The Calabresi family is weak right now, fighting internal conflicts. Rossi is exposed, vulnerable. I can reach him. I can make him answer for what he did. Answer how? Torture? A bullet to the head? Does it matter? He'll be gone. He'll never hurt anyone else. And Lucas will know his father's death was avenged. Elena stood abruptly, walking to the window. Outside, children played on the playground, shrieking with laughter as they chased each other in the fading afternoon light. So much innocence. So much joy. David should have been here to see Lucas grow up. Should have been here to teach him to drive, to help with algebra homework, to walk him through his first heartbreak. And he wasn't. Because a man named Vincent Rossi had decided he was a problem that needed eliminating. I don't know, Elena said, her voice breaking. I don't know what I want. Part of me wants him dead. Wants him to suffer the way we've suffered. But that's not who I am. That's not who I want Lucas to become. Lucas doesn't need to know the details. He just needs to know justice was served. Justice? Or revenge? In my world, they're the same thing. Elena turned to face him. And that's the problem, isn't it? Your world operates by different rules. Violence answers violence. Blood demands blood. But I don't live in your world, Dante. I can't. Lucas can't. You're already living in it, Dante said quietly. The moment David found those files, you became part of this world. The moment I crawled out of that river, you became even more entangled. You can pretend otherwise, but pretending won't keep you safe. Then what will? Me. My protection, my resources, my willingness to do what needs to be done. He stood, moving closer. I know this is hard. I know you want to believe the system works, that good people are rewarded and bad people are punished. But you're too smart to believe that anymore. You've seen how the world really works. He was right. She had seen, had lived through the farce of the police investigation, the insurance company's eager settlement, the way everyone wanted her to be quiet and grateful and move on. The world didn't punish men like Vincent Rossi. The world rewarded them with continued freedom and new victims. If I say yes, Elena whispered, if I tell you to do this, what does that make me? Human, flawed, real. Dante's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch unexpectedly gentle. It makes you someone who loves their son enough to ensure he grows up safe. Someone who honors their husband's memory by making sure his killer faces consequences. That's not weakness, Elena. That's strength. She should pull away, should maintain distance. But his hand was warm against her skin, and she was so tired of being strong alone, of carrying everything by herself. I need time, she managed. I need to think. Take what you need, but decide soon. Every day Rossi walks free is another day he could hurt someone else's family. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Then he stepped back, leaving her cold where his warmth had been. I should pick up Lucas, Elena said, her voice unsteady. I'll drive you. We can get ice cream after. Take his mind off things. You don't have to. I want to. If that's okay with you. It shouldn't be okay. Nothing about this situation should be okay. But Elena found herself nodding, grabbing her bag, following Dante out to his car. A different vehicle than before, black and expensive and anonymous. They picked up Lucas, who lit up at seeing Dante. Over ice cream at a local shop, her son chattered about his art project while Dante listened with apparent genuine interest. To any observer, they looked like a normal family. A mother, father, and son enjoying a simple afternoon together. The illusion was comforting and terrifying in equal measure. Later, after Lucas was asleep, Elena sat at her kitchen table with the manila folder. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were photographs. David's crashed car, the intersection where it happened, a blurry image of another vehicle fleeing the scene. There were financial documents showing the money laundering operation, witness statements from people David had worked with, noting his unusual stress in the weeks before his death. And there was a photograph of Vincent Rossi. 40-something, average height, thinning hair, forgettable face. He looked like someone's uncle. Like a man who'd help you change a tire or lend you his lawnmower. He looked nothing like a murderer. But he was. He'd killed David and driven away, probably slept soundly that night, probably never thought about the widow and child he'd created. Elena's phone buzzed, a text from Dante. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. You're not alone in this. D. She stared at the message for a long time. Then she looked at Vincent Rossi's photograph again. Thought about David's smile, his laugh, the way he used to read bedtime stories to Lucas in ridiculous voices. Thought about 3 years of grief and struggle and unanswered questions. Thought about what kind of person she wanted to be. What kind of mother. What kind of example for her son. Her fingers moved across the phone screen before she could second-guess herself. Do it. But I don't want to know the details. I just want him gone. Is that wrong of me? The response came quickly. No, it's human. Consider it done. He'll never hurt anyone again. Elena set down the phone and closed the folder. She'd just ordered a man's death, had crossed a line she could never uncross. She should feel guilty, should feel horrified at herself. Instead, she felt nothing but a cold sense of rightness. Vincent Rossi had taken David from her. Now she was taking his future from him. Perhaps that made her a monster. Perhaps that made her no better than the criminals Dante worked with. Or perhaps it just made her a mother, protecting her child, the only way she knew how. She went to Lucas's room and watched him sleep, his face peaceful and innocent. He would never know what she'd done, would never know the price she'd paid to keep him safe. That was how it should be. Mothers carried the darkness so their children could live in light. 3 days later, she saw a news report. Vincent Rossi had died in a home invasion gone wrong. Shot twice in the chest, died instantly. Police were investigating but had no leads. His wife and 2 daughters mourned him, calling him a devoted family man taken too soon. Elena turned off the television and went to fix Lucas's breakfast. She felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory, just a hollow confirmation that the world was exactly as brutal as she'd always feared. Dante didn't contact her for a week after that. When he finally appeared, it was late evening after Lucas was asleep. He stood in her doorway looking tired, older somehow. It's done, he said unnecessarily. I know. I saw the news. He had a family, wife, 2 daughters. They didn't know what he was. They think he was a good man. Dante's eyes searched hers. Does that change how you feel? Should it? David had a family too. Lucas had a father. Those girls still have theirs. They're just missing him now, not growing up without him entirely. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. I'm not sorry he's dead. I'm sorry his family is suffering. But I'm not sorry he's dead. Good. Because guilt would eat you alive, and you don't deserve that. Dante stepped closer. You did what you had to do. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Did you... Was it quick? Did he suffer? You said you didn't want details. I changed my mind. Dante was quiet for a moment. Then, it was quick. He knew why it was happening. I made sure of that. But I didn't make him suffer. That's not who I am, despite what you might think. Who are you, Dante? Really? Someone trying to survive in a world that rewards violence and punishes mercy. Someone who's done terrible things for reasons that seemed right at the time. Someone who's probably going to hell if such a place exists. He smiled without humor. Someone who's falling for a teacher who's too good for him and smart enough to know it. The admission hung between them, dangerous and honest. Don't, Elena whispered. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. Has been since you pulled me from that river. Maybe before. Dante reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I know this can't work. I know you deserve better. But I'm selfish enough to want it anyway. We barely know each other. I know you saved my life at risk to your own. I know you're raising an incredible son alone. I know you're strong enough to make impossible choices and brave enough to live with the consequences. What else do I need to know? Everything, Elena thought. You need to know I'm terrified, that I'm falling too and I don't know how to stop, that being near you feels like standing in a fire, painful and exhilarating and ultimately destructive. Instead, she said, You should go. It's late. Yeah, I should. But he didn't move. Neither did she. The kiss, when it happened, felt inevitable, like a conclusion they'd been moving toward since the moment their eyes met in that sinking car. His hands cupped her face, gentle despite their strength. Her fingers gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, despite every logical reason to push him away. It was wrong. It was dangerous. It was the best thing she'd felt in 3 years. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This is a mistake," he murmured. "I know. I'm going to hurt you eventually. It's what men like me do. I know that too. But you're not telling me to leave." "No, I'm not." Elena pulled back to look at him. "I'm not asking for forever, Dante. I'm not asking for promises you can't keep. But right now, in this moment, I want this. I want you. Is that enough?" His answer was another kiss, deeper this time, full of promise and warning in equal measure. Outside, the city hummed with life. In another apartment, a family slept, unaware that their father would never come home. In a warehouse across town, Dante's men cleaned up evidence and made problems disappear. The world turned on its axis, indifferent to individual pain or momentary happiness. But in Elena's small living room, two broken people found something that felt like hope, even if they both knew it was probably just another beautiful lie they were telling themselves. Sometimes lies were all you had to keep going. Sometimes that was enough. For 3 weeks, Elena lived in a dream that felt more real than her waking life had in years. Dante came to dinner twice a week, always bringing something: fresh bread from an Italian bakery, flowers for the table, a book Lucas had mentioned wanting. He never stayed the night, never pushed for more than stolen kisses when her son wasn't looking. He respected boundaries Elena didn't even know she'd set. Lucas flourished under the attention. His grades improved. He smiled more. He started talking about the future: college, careers, possibilities that had seemed impossibly distant before. Dante listened to all of it with genuine interest, offering advice that was surprisingly practical for a man who'd built his fortune on illegal enterprises. "You're good with him," Elena said one evening as they washed dishes together while Lucas finished homework at the kitchen table. "He's an easy kid to be good with. Smart, curious, resilient." Dante handed her a plate to dry. "He reminds me of my younger brother, before everything went wrong." "You have a brother?" "Had," past tense. "He died when I was 19, caught in crossfire during a territory dispute." Dante's jaw tightened. He was innocent, completely uninvolved. Just wrong place, wrong time. "I've spent 17 years making sure that never happens to anyone under my protection again." Elena touched his arm gently. "I'm sorry. That's terrible. It's life in my world. You learn to live with ghosts or you don't survive." He looked at her, something vulnerable in his eyes. "But with you, with Lucas, I feel like maybe I could be something else, someone else. Does that sound insane?" "Yes, but I understand it anyway." Elena set down the dish towel. "Dante, this can't last. You know that, right? Eventually, the danger passes, and you go back to your life, and we go back to ours." "Is that what you want?" "It's what makes sense." "That's not what I asked." Before Elena could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Mrs. Morrison?" A woman's voice, professional but urgent. "This is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I need to speak with you about your husband's case. It's been reopened." Elena's blood ran cold. She looked at Dante, who had gone very still. "I don't understand. Why now?" "New evidence has surfaced. We'd like you to come to the precinct tomorrow morning to discuss it. Can you make 9 o'clock? Yes. Yes. I can be there." After she hung up, Dante was already on his phone, stepping into the hallway. Elena could hear him speaking rapid Italian, his tone clipped and commanding. When he returned, his expression was grim. "The secure drive David hid. Someone found it. They've turned it over to the authorities." "But that's good, isn't it? That means they'll see the evidence. They'll know David was murdered. It means they'll investigate the Calabrese family. Which means they'll eventually connect Rossi's death to David's murder. Which means they'll start asking questions about who might have wanted revenge." Dante's eyes were dark. "They'll look at you, Elena. You're the widow. You had motive. And when they dig deep enough, they'll find traces that lead back to me." "But I didn't kill him. You did. And I did it for you. At your request. That makes you an accessory." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare show of agitation. "This is my fault. I should have been more careful. Should have anticipated this." Lucas looked up from his homework, sensing the tension. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby," Elena said automatically. "Just grown-up stuff. Keep working on your math." But Dante knelt beside Lucas's chair, meeting the boy's eyes with unusual seriousness. "Actually, there is something. I need you to listen carefully. Some people might come asking questions about me, about how much time I spend with you and your mom. If that happens, what do you say?" "The truth?" A version of it. You say I'm your mom's friend, that I helped her with some financial problems after she helped me when I was in an accident. That's all. You don't mention anything else. Can you do that? You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you alert, keeps you safe. Dante squeezed Lucas's shoulder. I'm not going anywhere, but I need you to be smart. Can you do that for me? Yes, sir. After Lucas went to bed, Elena paced her living room while Dante made calls, coordinating with his attorneys, his people, building defenses she didn't fully understand. They can't prove anything, he said finally. The hit was clean. No evidence linking me to Rossi's death. No paper trail, no witnesses, nothing. As long as you don't confess, they have nothing. But they'll suspect. Let them suspect. Suspicion isn't proof. Dante pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I won't let anything happen to you or Lucas. Whatever comes, I'll handle it. By doing what? Bribing cops? Intimidating witnesses? If necessary, yes. Elena pulled away. That's not who I want to be. Someone who corrupts the system to save herself. The system is already corrupt. I'm just using it the same way everyone else does. People with money, power, connections. The only difference is I'm honest about it. There has to be another way. There isn't. Not in the real world. Dante's expression softened. I know you want to believe in justice, in doing things the right way, but the right way gets good people destroyed while bad people walk free. I'm offering you protection. Take it. The next morning, Elena sat across from Detective Chen in a bland interrogation room that smelled like stale coffee and desperation. The detective was younger than Elena expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor that radiated competence. Thank you for coming in, Chen began. I want to start by saying how sorry I am about your husband, and I apologize for the original investigation. Looking at the files now, we should have dug deeper. Why didn't you? Honestly? Because it looked like a simple accident, and we had limited resources. We prioritize based on what seems most urgent. That was a mistake. Chen opened a folder. But now we have the drive David hid. The evidence he collected on the Meridian shipping money laundering operation. It's damning, and it clearly establishes motive for his murder. So you believe he was killed? I do. And we've identified a suspect, Vincent Rossi. Problem is, Rossi died 3 weeks ago under suspicious circumstances. Elena kept her face carefully neutral. I saw that on the news. Home invasion, they said. That's the official story. But between us, I don't buy it. Rossi was a professional killer. He wouldn't get taken down by random thieves. Chen leaned forward. Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you directly. Did you have anything to do with Vincent Rossi's death? No, I didn't even know his name until after he was dead. It wasn't quite a lie. She hadn't known his name when she told Dante to handle it. The detective studied her for a long moment. What about Dante Salvatore? Elena's heart stuttered, but she kept her expression blank. I'm sorry, who? Dante Salvatore. Head of the Salvatore crime family, one of the most powerful mob bosses on the East Coast. Chen slid a photograph across the table. Dante, caught by a surveillance camera, getting into a car. We have reports placing him at your apartment building multiple times over the past month. Care to explain that? He's a friend. He helped me with some financial issues after I helped him following a car accident. What kind of accident? He went into the river. My son and I pulled him out. Elena met Chen's eyes steadily. I didn't know who he was at the time. Afterward, he paid off some debts as a thank you. That's all. That's all? You're socializing with a known criminal? And that's all? He's been kind to my son. He's been respectful. Whatever else he does isn't my business. Chen's expression hardened. Mrs. Morrison, I want to help you. But I can't if you're protecting a murderer. Salvatore has the resources and motivation to kill Rossi. If he did it at your request, you're an accessory. The best thing you can do right now is tell me the truth. I am telling the truth. I had nothing to do with Vincent Rossi's death. Neither did Mr. Salvatore, as far as I'm aware. You're making a mistake. Men like Salvatore don't help people out of kindness. They collect debts. They own people. Whatever you think this relationship is, you're wrong. Are we done here? Because I need to pick up my son from school. Chen sighed, closing the folder. For now. But this investigation is ongoing. If I find proof of your involvement, sympathy for your situation won't save you. Understood? Understood. Elena left the precinct on shaking legs. Outside, Marco was waiting in a black sedan. Dante had insisted on protection for the meeting. The older man opened the door without a word, and Elena slid into the back seat where Dante was waiting. How bad? He asked. They suspect, but they can't prove anything. Yet. Elena closed her eyes. She's right, though. I am making a mistake. We both are. The mistake was already made the night you saved me. Everything since is just consequences. Then maybe I should have let you drown. Maybe you should have. Dante took her hand. But you didn't, and now we're here. So we deal with it. By lying to the police? By obstructing justice? By surviving. That's all anyone can do. He pulled her close. Jen is good at her job, but she's operating within rules I don't follow. She won't find proof because there isn't any to find. You're safe. Lucas is safe. That's what matters. But Elena didn't feel safe. She felt like she was standing on ice that was cracking beneath her feet, about to plunge into freezing water with no one to pull her out this time. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the detective's words. Men like Salvatore don't help people out of kindness. They collect debts. They own people. Was that true? Had she traded one prison for another? Had she escaped financial desperation only to become trapped by obligation to a criminal? Her phone buzzed. Dante. Can't sleep either. Thinking about you. Elena stared at the message. 3 weeks ago, she would have ignored it, would have maintained distance, protected herself. But 3 weeks ago, she hadn't known what it felt like to be seen by someone who understood darkness, because he lived in it too. Come over, she typed before she could stop herself. Lucas? Asleep. Use the fire escape, second window on the left. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was exactly what Detective Chen had warned her against. Elena didn't care. 20 minutes later, Dante climbed through her bedroom window like a teenager sneaking out. Despite everything, Elena almost laughed at the absurdity. A powerful crime boss scaling a fire escape to avoid waking an 8-year-old. This is insane, she whispered. Completely. Dante pulled her close. But I couldn't stay away. They kissed with an urgency born of fear and uncertainty. Tomorrow might bring exposure, arrest, the destruction of everything they'd built. But tonight, they had this. Stolen moments in the darkness, pretending the outside world didn't exist. Tell me this is real, Elena breathed against his neck. Tell me this isn't just you collecting a debt. This is the realest thing in my life, Dante said fiercely. You and Lucas. Everything else is just survival. But this is living. Even if it destroys us both? Even then. They fell into her bed, shedding clothes and inhibitions in equal measure. Elena knew she should stop, should think, should be rational. But rationality had never kept her warm at night, had never made her feel alive the way Dante's touch did. Later, wrapped in sheets and each other, Dante traced patterns on her bare shoulder. If this all falls apart, if Chen finds proof, if my enemies strike, if everything goes to hell, I need you to promise me something. What? Take Lucas and run. I have money set aside, hidden accounts, false identities. You can disappear. Start over somewhere safe. I'm not leaving you. You will if it means keeping Lucas safe. Promise me. Elena wanted to argue, to insist they'd face everything together. But she was a mother first. Lucas's safety came before her own happiness. It always had. I promise. Good. Dante kissed her forehead. Now try to sleep. Tomorrow we fight back. Tonight, we rest. But Elena couldn't rest. Because she knew, with a certainty that chilled her blood, that their time was running out. The ice beneath them was cracking. Soon it would shatter completely. And when it did, she'd have to choose between the man she was falling in love with and the son who was her entire world. It shouldn't even be a choice. But somehow, terrifyingly, it had become one. The attack came on a Tuesday afternoon, ordinary and unremarkable until it wasn't. Elena was leaving the grocery store with Lucas, bags in hand, discussing what to make for dinner. Her son wanted spaghetti. She was suggesting chicken instead because it was healthier. Normal conversation. Normal day. Then Marco, who'd been following at a discreet distance, suddenly sprinted forward, shouting something Elena couldn't hear over the parking lot noise. A black van screeched to a stop beside them. The side door flew open. 2 men lunged out, reaching for Lucas. Elena's scream tore from her throat as she threw herself between them and her son. One man shoved her hard, sending her crashing into a parked car. Pain exploded through her shoulder. The grocery bags scattered, apples rolling across the asphalt. Mom! Lucas's terrified cry cut through everything. Marco reached them, gun drawn, firing twice. One attacker went down. The other grabbed Lucas and hauled him toward the van. Elena scrambled up, ignoring the pain, running faster than she'd ever run in her life. She caught the man's jacket just as he was shoving Lucas into the van. They struggled. She clawed at his face, drawing blood. He backhanded her, and the world tilted. But she didn't let go. "Drive!" the man shouted. The van lurched forward with the door still open. Elena was dragged along, her fingers locked in the man's jacket. Pavement tore at her legs. She couldn't let go, couldn't lose Lucas. Marco fired again. The front tire exploded. The van swerved wildly and crashed into a light post with a sickening crunch of metal. Elena was thrown clear, hitting the ground so hard the air left her lungs. Everything hurt. Everything blurred. But she heard Lucas crying, heard Marco shouting orders into his phone, heard sirens approaching. "Lucas," she croaked, trying to stand. "Where's Lucas?" "Here, Mom, I'm here." Her son's face appeared above her, tears streaming down his cheeks. "You're bleeding. You're bleeding so much." Elena looked down. Her shirt was soaked red. She couldn't tell where the blood was coming from. Couldn't tell what hurt because everything hurt. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe. That's all that matters." Then Dante was there, appearing like he'd materialized from her desperation. His face was white with fury, his hands gentle as he pressed something against her side. "Ambulance is 2 minutes out," Marco reported. "One attacker dead, one unconscious, third got away on foot." "Find him," Dante snarled. "Find him and everyone he's ever spoken to. I want names, addresses, family trees. I want to know what they eat for breakfast. Go." "Mom's hurt," Lucas sobbed. "Make her okay. Please make her okay." "She'll be okay," Dante promised, though his eyes told a different story. "She's strong. Like you. You both fought back. You both survived. They were taking me. They were going to take me away. But they didn't. Because your mom wouldn't let them. And I'm never going to let anyone hurt either of you again. Do you understand? Never." The ambulance arrived. EMTs swarmed, asking questions, checking vitals, loading Elena onto a stretcher. She reached for Lucas, needing to touch him, to confirm he was real and whole. "I've got him," Dante said, lifting her son easily. "He stays with me. We follow you to the hospital. I'm not leaving either of you." At the emergency room, everything became a blur of bright lights and antiseptic smell and people touching her, examining her. She'd been stabbed, they said. Shallow wound, but she'd lost blood. Contusions, abrasions, possible concussion. They wanted to keep her overnight for observation. "Lucas?" Elena kept asking. "Where's Lucas?" "I'm here." Her son appeared beside the bed, holding Dante's hand. His face was pale but composed. Too composed for an 8-year-old who'd just survived an attempted kidnapping. "I'm not hurt. They didn't hurt me." "Good. That's good." Elena tried to smile. "You were brave. So brave. You were braver. You fought them even though they were bigger." Lucas's voice cracked. "I thought they were going to kill you." "They didn't. I'm fine. We're both fine. But it was a lie. Nothing was fine. Nothing would ever be fine again." Detective Chen arrived an hour later, notebook in hand, eyes hard with questions. "Mrs. Morrison, quite an eventful afternoon. They tried to take my son. I know. I've reviewed the security footage. 2 men, attempted abduction, thwarted by your bodyguard and Mr. Salvatore." Chen glanced at Dante, who stood in the corner like a sentinel. Convenient that he arrived so quickly. "I was close by," Dante said flatly. "Thank God." Thing is, one of the attackers survived. He's in surgery right now, but when he wakes up, he'll talk. And I'm betting he has interesting things to say about why they targeted Lucas Morrison specifically. "Because I'm investigating a crime family," Elena said tiredly. "Because someone wants to punish me for reopening David's case. Or because someone wants to control you. Scare you into silence." Chen's eyes never left Dante. "Make you dependent on protection only they can provide. Classic organized crime tactic. Are you suggesting I staged this?" Dante's voice was dangerously soft. "I'm suggesting you benefit from it. Mrs. Morrison was starting to have doubts, starting to question your involvement in her life. Now she has no choice but to rely on you completely. Awfully convenient. Get out." Elena's voice was weak but fierce. "Get out of my room, now." "Mrs. Morrison, those men tried to kidnap my son. They stabbed me, and you're standing here implying that the man who saved us is somehow the villain? Get out." Chen left, but her parting look promised this wasn't over. After she was gone, Elena sagged against the pillows. "This is because of me, because I asked questions, because I pushed for the truth about David." "No, this is because the Calabrese family is desperate. They know their organization is falling apart. They're lashing out." Dante moved to her bedside. But Chen wasn't entirely wrong. "This does change things. You can't go home. It's not safe anymore. Where are we supposed to go?" "I have a property upstate. Secure, isolated, fully staffed. You and Lucas stay there until this is resolved. Resolved how? I'm going to war. Full, open war with the Calabrese family. They touched you. They touched Lucas. That's a death sentence in my world. By next week, their organization won't exist anymore. The casual way he discussed annihilating an entire crime family should have terrified Elena. Instead, she felt nothing but grim satisfaction. They'd tried to take her son. They deserved whatever Dante did to them. What about school? Lucas's education? I'll hire tutors, the best available. He won't fall behind. For how long? Weeks? Months? However long it takes. Dante's hand covered hers. I know this isn't what you wanted. I know you wanted normal. But normal isn't possible anymore. It stopped being possible the moment you dove into that river. I'm starting to think you were right. I should have let you drown. Too late now. You're stuck with me. He smiled without humor. For better or worse. They moved to Dante's safe house the next day. Lucas took it surprisingly well, treating it like an adventure. The property was beautiful. A sprawling estate with woods, a lake, and security measures Elena couldn't see but knew were there. The tutor arrived that afternoon, a kind woman in her 50s who'd taught at prestigious private schools. Within an hour, she had Lucas engaged in a lesson about the solar system, his earlier trauma temporarily forgotten in the excitement of learning. Elena watched from the doorway, her side aching despite the pain medication. Dante appeared beside her, silent as a ghost. He's resilient, she said quietly. Like his father. Like his mother. Dante's arm went around her waist, carefully avoiding her injury. You threw yourself at armed men without hesitation. You got dragged by a van rather than let them take your son. That's not just resilience. That's ferocity. Any mother would do the same. Not any mother. You. He turned her to face him. I need to leave soon. Handle business. I'll be gone for a few days. The war you mentioned. Yes, it won't be clean. People will die. Some of them might not deserve it. His eyes searched hers. Does that bother you? Knowing what I'm about to do? Elena thought about it. Really thought about it. Men who'd tried to kidnap Lucas would die. Their associates would die. Maybe even people only peripherally involved would die. Dante would paint the city red with blood, all because someone had dared to threaten his... What? His woman? His family? She should be horrified. Should demand he find another way. But she'd learned something about herself in that parking lot. She'd learned that when it came to Lucas's safety, she had no moral boundaries. No lines she wouldn't cross. No, she said honestly. It doesn't bother me. Does that make me a monster? It makes you human. The best kind. The kind that protects what they love at any cost. Dante kissed her forehead. Marco stays here with you. 20 men on the property at all times. You don't leave the grounds for any reason. If something happens, if somehow they breach security, there's a panic room in the basement. Marco knows where it is. You take Lucas and lock yourselves in. Help will come. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you careful. He cupped her face. I will come back. I promise you that. I will end this threat and come back. Don't make promises you might not be able to keep. I don't. His thumb brushed across her lips. I love you. I should have said it before. I love you, Elena Morrison. I love your strength and your courage and the way you see the best in people even when they don't deserve it. I love how you love your son. I love everything about you. Tears burned Elena's eyes. Don't say that now. Not when you're about to walk into danger. Especially now. Because if something goes wrong, I need you to know. You saved my life. And everything I've done since has been about being worthy of that second chance. He kissed her, deep and desperate. I love you. Remember that. Then he was gone, striding away with that confident walk, flanked by his men, heading toward violence she couldn't stop or prevent. Lucas appeared beside her. Is Dante leaving? Yes, baby. He has work to do. Will he come back? He said he would. Do you believe him? Elena watched Dante's car disappear down the long driveway. I have to. The alternative is unthinkable. For 3 days, Elena lived in a luxury prison. Beautiful, but isolated. Safe, but suffocating. Marco gave her updates. Careful, sanitized versions of what was happening in the city. Arrests, raids, violence. The news reported it as a gang war. 5 dead the first night. 12 more the second day. The Calabrese family's assets were being seized. Their associates were turning on each other. Their empire was crumbling. And Dante was at the center of it all, orchestrating destruction with surgical precision. On the 4th day, Detective Chen appeared at the gate. Marco denied her entry, but Elena overrode him. She needed to know what the police knew. They met in the library. Two women on opposite sides of a line neither had chosen. The Calabrese organization is finished, Chen said without preamble. Dante Salvatore destroyed them completely. Their leadership is dead or in custody. Their operations are shut down. He won. Good. Good? Mrs. Morrison, 17 people died in the past 4 days. 17. That's not good. That's carnage. Those 17 people worked for a family that murdered my husband and tried to kidnap my son. Excuse me if I don't mourn them. Chen's expression was a mix of frustration and pity. This is what he does. He makes you complicit. Makes you excuse violence because it serves your interests. Don't you see? You're becoming exactly what he is. Maybe I already was. Maybe you just couldn't see it because I was polite about my darkness. Elena stood, wincing at the pull in her side. Is there a legal reason you're here, detective? Or just a moral one? Legal. The man who attacked you in the parking lot woke up. He talked, gave us names, including yours. Said he was hired to grab Lucas, use him as leverage to force you to back off the investigation into Meridian Shipping. So I was right. This was about David's murder. Yes, and no. Because the person who hired him wasn't from the Calabrese family. It was someone trying to frame them. Someone who wanted to push you into Dante Salvatore's arms, make you dependent on his protection. Elena's blood turned to ice. What are you saying? I'm saying Dante Salvatore orchestrated the entire thing. The attack, the kidnapping attempt, all of it. He hired those men, told them exactly when to strike, where you'd be vulnerable. He sacrificed one of his own men. Marco shot his associate, not a real enemy, to make it look convincing. Chen pulled out a folder, photographs spilling across the table. The man in custody has phone records, text messages, bank deposits, all leading back to a shell company owned by Salvatore. No, that's not possible. He saved Lucas. He saved us both. He created a crisis so he could be the hero. Classic manipulation. And it worked. You're here, in his house, completely under his control. Exactly where he wanted you from the beginning. Get out. Elena's voice shook. Get out now before I call Marco to throw you out. Mrs. Morrison, please. I know you care about him. But he's a sociopath. He kills people. He manipulates them. He's using you and your son for purposes you don't understand. Let me help you. Let me get you somewhere actually safe. The only person I need protection from right now is you. Leave. Now. Chen left reluctantly, but the folder remained on the table. Evidence of betrayal. Proof that everything Dante had said, everything he'd done, was a calculated lie designed to bind her to him. Elena stared at those photographs for a long time, saw the bank records, saw the text messages coordinating the attack, saw evidence that couldn't be faked or explained away. And she believed it. God help her, she believed it. Dante returned that night, victorious and bloodstained, expecting celebration. Instead, he found Elena waiting in the foyer with packed bags and a gun she'd taken from Marco's desk drawer pointed straight at his chest. Dante froze in the doorway, his eyes moving from the gun to Elena's face. He didn't raise his hands, didn't look afraid, just tired. So she got to you, he said quietly. Chen showed you the evidence. Is it true? Elena's hands trembled, but her aim stayed steady. Did you orchestrate the attack? Did you hire those men to grab Lucas? Yes and no. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Dante took a careful step forward. Put down the gun, Elena. Let me explain. Stay where you are. Start talking. He stopped, jaw tight with frustration. The evidence Chen showed you is real. Those bank records, those messages, they're genuine. But the context is wrong. She's telling you I hired men to kidnap Lucas. The truth is I hired men to prevent his kidnapping. That makes no sense. It does if you understand how my world works. Dante's voice was measured, controlled. 2 weeks ago, I learned the Calabrese family was planning to grab Lucas, use him as leverage to silence you and eliminate the threat you pose to their organization. I couldn't stop them directly without starting a war I wasn't ready for. So I did the next best thing. I infiltrated their operation. By hiring the kidnappers yourself. By replacing their kidnappers with my own men. Men I could control. Men who would stage an attack realistic enough to fool the Calabrese family, but safe enough that Lucas would never actually be in danger. Dante's eyes burned into hers. Marco killed Tony, my own associate, because Tony was supposed to die in that parking lot. It had to look real. The Calabrese family had to believe their plan had failed organically, not that I'd interfered. Elena wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. But Detective Chen's words echoed in her mind. This is what he does. He makes you complicit, makes you excuse violence. You're lying, she said, though her conviction wavered. If that were true, you would have told me beforehand, warned me, and risk you reacting exactly the way you did? Acting terrified, protecting Lucas, fighting back. That parking lot had surveillance. The Calabrese family would have studied every second of that footage. If you'd known it was staged, they would have seen it. They would have known I was involved. And then they would have come at you with everything they had. Dante's voice roughened. I couldn't risk your life by telling you the truth. So I let you hate me instead. Seemed like a fair trade. Lucas was terrified. I was stabbed. The knife wound was real. The man holding you panicked when Marco arrived earlier than planned. He was supposed to grab Lucas and run, make it look like an abduction attempt. Instead, you fought back harder than anyone anticipated, and everything went wrong. Pain flickered across Dante's face. I never wanted you hurt. That was never part of the plan. But it happened anyway. Because your plans always involve violence, manipulation, lies. Yes, they do. Because that's the only language my world understands. Dante spread his hands slowly, showing he was unarmed. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to understand. Everything I did to keep you and Lucas alive. If that makes me a monster, I'll accept that judgment. But I won't apologize for protecting you. Elena's arms ached from holding the gun. Her mind raced, trying to separate truth from deception. Every instinct screamed that she should run, take Lucas, disappear like Dante had suggested. But another part of her, the part that had pulled a drowning man from a river, believed him. Detective Chen had phone records, text messages. How do you explain those? Because they exist. I coordinated the operation. I gave orders. But Chen is interpreting those communications through the lens of someone who wants me to be the villain. Dante took another careful step forward. Call Marco. Ask him yourself. He was there. He knows what really happened. Marco works for you. He'd lie. Marco has 3 nieces he loves more than his own life. Ask him if he'd participate in actually harming a child. Look him in the eye when you ask. You'll know if he's lying. Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze, one bullet. She could end this now. End the confusion, the fear, the constant questioning of what was real and what was manipulation. But she thought about Dante climbing through her window like a teenager. Thought about him listening to Lucas talk about baseball with genuine interest. Thought about the way he'd held her after they made love. Vulnerable in a way men like him were never supposed to be. I want to believe you, she whispered. But I don't know if I can trust my own judgment anymore. You've gotten into my head, made me question everything. I know, I'm sorry. Dante's voice was raw. I didn't mean to fall in love with you. That was never part of any plan. I was supposed to protect you, pay my debt, then disappear. Instead, I fell. Hard. Completely. And once I did, I couldn't let anything happen to you or Lucas. Even if it meant making decisions you'd hate me for. Love doesn't excuse manipulation. No, it doesn't. But it explains it. He was close now, close enough to take the gun if he wanted. He didn't. I'm giving you a choice, Elena. Believe Chen. Believe I'm a monster who orchestrated everything. Take Lucas and run. I'll give you money, new identities, everything you need to disappear. I won't come after you. I won't contact you. You'll be free. Or believe me. Trust that everything I did was to protect you, even when my methods were terrible. Stay. Build a life with me. Let me be the father Lucas deserves and the partner you need. It won't be conventional. It won't be safe. But it'll be real. Those are impossible choices. Life is impossible choices. You know that better than anyone. Dante's hand slowly reached out, gently lowering the gun barrel until it pointed at the floor. Elena, let him. What does your instinct tell you? Not your fear? Not your logic. Your gut. What does it say? Elena closed her eyes, reaching for that deep-down certainty that had guided her through David's death, through years of struggling alone, through the decision to save a drowning stranger. What did she feel when she stripped away everything else? She felt truth. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe she was exactly the naive victim Detective Chen thought she was. But when Elena looked at Dante Salvatore, she didn't see a manipulative sociopath. She saw a deeply damaged man who'd learned to survive in darkness and was trying desperately to find light. I believe you, she said finally. I don't know if that makes me smart or stupid, but I believe you. The relief on Dante's face was so profound it almost broke her. He pulled her into his arms, careful of her injury, burying his face in her hair. Thank you. God, thank you. But things have to change, Elena said against his chest. No more decisions made for my protection without consulting me. No more plans I'm not part of. If we do this, if we really do this, we're partners, equal partners. Understood? Understood, I promise. No more secrets. And Lucas comes first, always. Before your business, before your wars, before us. His safety and happiness are non-negotiable. I wouldn't have it any other way. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the foyer of a house bought with blood money, surrounded by security paid for by criminal enterprise. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt like coming home. Mom? They broke apart to find Lucas standing on the stairs, still in his pajamas. His eyes were red like he'd been crying. Hey baby, what's wrong? I heard arguing. I thought Dante was leaving. Lucas's voice broke. I thought he was leaving like Dad did. Dante crossed to the stairs and knelt so he was eye level with the boy. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere unless your mom tells me to. And even then, I'll fight to stay. Promise? I promise. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone tells you, I will always come back, always protect you, always be here when you need me. Dante held out his hand. Do we have a deal? Lucas studied him with those two old eyes, weighing sincerity against a lifetime of broken promises. Then he took Dante's hand and shook it firmly. Deal. But if you break it, Mom will shoot you. She has a gun. Despite everything, Elena laughed. Where did you learn to negotiate like that? From Dante. He says always make sure the other person knows the consequences of breaking an agreement. Smart kid, Dante said with a slight smile. All right, let's get you back to bed. School day tomorrow, even if it's just with the tutor. As Dante carried Lucas upstairs, Elena sank onto the bottom step, suddenly exhausted. The gun felt heavy in her hand. She should put it back, lock it away where Lucas couldn't find it. But for a moment, she just held it, this symbol of everything her life had become. Her phone buzzed. Detective Chen. Mrs. Morrison, I know you didn't believe me tonight, but I'm not giving up on you. When you're ready to see the truth, I'll be here. Stay safe. Elena deleted the message. Chen meant well, but she didn't understand. Safety wasn't about avoiding danger. It was about choosing which dangers you could live with. She'd chosen hers. 3 months passed. Elena and Lucas stayed at the safe house while Dante restructured his entire organization. He'd kept his promise. No more secrets. He showed her the books, explained his operations, made her understand exactly how his empire functioned. Some of it still made her uncomfortable. But he was also legitimate businesses mixed with the illegal ones. Restaurants, construction companies, shipping operations that had nothing to do with criminal activity. I'm transitioning, he explained one night as they reviewed finances together. Moving away from drugs, weapons, all the things that directly harm people. Focusing on gambling, some white-collar operations, protection services. It'll take years, but eventually, the Salvatore organization will be more legitimate than criminal. Why? Because I want Lucas to inherit something he can be proud of. Because I want you to be able to hold your head up when people ask what I do. Because I'm tired of being the villain. He squeezed her hand. I'll never be a saint. But maybe I can be something better than I was. Elena kissed him, overwhelmed by gratitude and love, and the strange beauty of watching someone actively choose to become better. Detective Chen continued investigating, but without proof of active wrongdoing, she couldn't touch them. The Calabrese family's collapse had been thorough enough that any remaining members were too busy scrambling for survival to pursue revenge. Slowly, carefully, life began to normalize. Lucas thrived. His tutor reported he was working above grade level in every subject. He grew taller, stronger, more confident. And he adored Dante with an intensity that both warmed and terrified Elena. What if this doesn't last? She asked Dante one night as they lay in bed. What if something happens to you? What if your past catches up? I can't watch Lucas lose another father figure. Then we'll deal with it together. As a family. Dante pulled her close. I've spent my entire adult life preparing for death, making contingency plans, building safeguards. But with you, with Lucas, I'm preparing for life instead. That's terrifying in a completely different way. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? The best kind. The kind that makes you want to wake up tomorrow and see what happens next. 6 months after the parking lot attack, Dante proposed. Not with a grand gesture or public display, but quietly over breakfast while Lucas did math homework at the kitchen table. Marry me, he said simply, sliding a simple platinum band across the table. Make it official. Let me be Lucas's father legally, not just emotionally. Let me protect you both in every way possible. Elena stared at the ring. Marriage to a former mob boss. becoming part of a world she'd spent her whole life avoiding, binding herself to someone whose past was soaked in blood. Yes, she said without hesitation. Lucas looked up from his homework. Does this mean Dante is my dad now? If you want him to be, Elena said carefully. Yeah, I want that. Lucas went back to his math like it was settled, like gaining a father was as simple as solving an equation. Maybe for him, it was. They married at the courthouse with only Marco and the tutor as witnesses. No big ceremony, no family gathering. Neither of them had family who would attend anyway. Just two broken people and a resilient child, forming something new from the wreckage of their pasts. Detective Chen appeared at the courthouse as they left, her expression unreadable. Congratulations, Mrs. Salvatore. Hope you know what you're getting into. I know exactly what I'm getting into, Elena said, holding Dante's hand. A complicated, messy, unconventional life with someone who loves me and my son. I'm good with that. Until you're not. Until his world comes crashing down and takes you with it. Maybe. But I'd rather crash with someone I love than stay safe and alone. Elena smiled. Thanks for caring, Detective. But I'm exactly where I want to be. Chen shook her head but didn't argue. Some people couldn't be saved because they didn't want saving. That night, as Elena stood on the balcony of the safe house looking out over the dark woods, Dante joined her with 2 glasses of wine. Regrets already? He asked lightly. About 47 of them. But none about this. About us. She leaned against him. We're going to raise Lucas together. Give him a life neither of us had. Teach him to be strong but not hard. Brave but not reckless. Capable of darkness but choosing light. That's a tall order. We have 18 years to figure it out. Maybe more if he's a slow learner. Dante laughed. Actually laughed. The sound rusty from disuse but genuine. I love you, Elena Salvatore. Even though you're completely insane for marrying me. I love you too. Especially because I'm insane for marrying you. Inside, Lucas was already asleep in his room, surrounded by books and art projects and evidence of a childhood that was finally, blessedly normal despite everything. Elena thought about the night she'd pulled a drowning man from the river. How that single decision had changed everything. Shattered her quiet life and rebuilt it into something stranger, more dangerous, but infinitely more alive. She'd saved Dante's life that night. But in doing so, he'd somehow saved hers too. Had given her purpose beyond survival, had shown her that love could exist even in darkness, had proven that broken people could build something beautiful if they were brave enough to try. Was it healthy? Probably not. Was it conventional? Definitely not. Was it the life she'd imagined for herself? Not even close. But it was hers. Theirs. And that was enough. In the distance, a car approached on the long driveway. Marco, returning from whatever errand Dante had sent him on. Always watching. Always protecting. The machinery of their strange life continuing its steady rhythm. Come to bed, Dante said softly. Tomorrow we figure out the rest of our lives. Tonight we just celebrate surviving long enough to have a future. Elena let him lead her inside, closing the door on the darkness beyond. The world was still dangerous. The past still haunted them. The future remained uncertain. But they had each other. They had Lucas. They had this moment. Sometimes that was all anyone needed. Sometimes that was everything. The end.